So here's part 1B. All right. I just want to say the police don't like this either, having to do this, because guess what this means? They got to come closer to people than they would if they just let the person sit there. And they don't like this either. But anyway, here we go. Okay, this is a question I gave you back in the enzyme part because this is about an enzyme, but now they give you a a heredity kind of thing here. We have the fact that this enzyme has a mutated gene that causes a mutated form that causes this deficiency, which is rare, right? They tell you it's sex linked, it's on the X chromosome. So now you have a male with this deficiency. They don't give it any kind of things because so I'm going to give it a small d for deficiency, right? As male, right? Homozygous female with no family history of this deficiency. They're telling you that mom is homozygous dominant for this, right? They have a male offspring. Well, once again, like before, all the males from these two parents are going to have an X chromosome from mom only. They've told you she doesn't have any little d gene in her history. Therefore, they're telling you she's homozygous for the big D gene. No chance, right? Notice here, they just ask you to calculate. They don't need the explanation I just gave you, right? I gave it to you just for good stuff. But calculate means they want a number. But if the number's zero, they can also take some words, but you're always safer when they ask you to calculate to give them a number, right? And don't say something like more or less. They want numbers when they ask you to calculate. So now they have a story about these sex chromosomes in fish. And if you remember in the syllabus, they told you, birds have this kind of system. They have females that have different sex chromosomes, and males are the ones that have the same. But now they tell you a story of fish, but they describe the exact same story that males are the ones with two similar sex chromosomes as whereas in humans it's females that have two X's. These ZWs have just the reverse pattern, but they explain it to you. Okay. However, this story is all about also that sometimes other things can change genotypes, in this case temperature. So if you're raised at a 28 degrees centigrade, this Z chromosome you might have gotten, right, gets changed to a Z star chromosome. And then if you have this Z star chromosome along with the W, now you're not female, now you're male. And you can pass that Z star down to your offspring. Even if they're raised here, they keep that Z star chromosome. So that's the background information. Okay. Now here they ask you predict the percent of phenotypic males from the cross here, right? Well, this is simple counting. You don't want to miss this. ZZs are males. So there's 1, 2, right? And if it's a star Z, a Z star, then these are also phenotypic males. They've told you that 3 to 1. What percent of phenotypic males, right? 75%. 3/4%, 75. One more. So now they tell you that you have to have a Z to survive. In other words, you can't be WW and survive, right? And if you're this kind of male, right? If you're this kind of male that's a Z star male, which means you have a W, right? And mom is your typical ZW, right? You could have kids that get that two W's, which makes it lethal. So in that case, you could have kids, you'd have 1/4 of them, right? You'd predict. And so you could have kids that don't make it. So you are told that you have a cross of two fish and you get a 2-to-1 ratio of males to females. 2-to-1 means there was only three kinds of kids that you had, and that means that those WW kids, which were X'd out, never made it to be counted. right? And so that would explain why you had two males kids to every one female, because 1/4 of your kids didn't make it. All right. So identify the genotype of the male parent where it had to be one of these that had a W chromosome. So that's your identification point, right? And then describe one fitness cost. That's kind of an evolution question. And the fitness cost is that some of your kids aren't going to make it, right? Like specifically 1/4 of them. Or maybe some of your kids will have even if you don't have any of those WWs that die, some of your kids will have this and some of their kids might die, which means that's a fitness cost. Your grandparents or your grandkids had some types that couldn't pass on their genes because they didn't make it.